Step number 4 states separate, square, and sew across bottom of bag. So not very descriptive, but it'll make sense once you watch this video. We're gonna do this for both our outer and our lining fabric, just because in our last video, we cut the corners of our outer and our lining fabric. So before we can even do that, we need to go ahead and reinforce our seams that we just cut. So we just cut this seam right here on this seam, and same on the other side, this seam right here, and this seam right here. So we cut them, and so that means that I can literally just, if I wanted to, start to unravel this. So we're gonna go back in, and we're just gonna sew up and down on top of that seam to reinforce it. So you'll see me do that. I'm gonna go ahead and lower my presser foot, and then I'm just gonna back stitch at the beginning and the end. So quick little back stitch. Trim off my threads. It's a very small area, so you're probably gonna have quite a few threads. That's okay. And then I'm gonna turn it and do the same thing with this side. Just a quick little back stitch. Trim off my threads. Once you do one side, you'll go ahead and move on to the other side, and then repeat the exact same steps with your lining. Once again, for time's sake today, I'm not gonna do all 4 corners. I'm gonna do one to demonstrate, and then you'll just repeat this step 3 more times, once with your other outer, and then both of your linings. So I'm gonna go ahead and push my machine back for the moment. And it says, separate, square, and sew across the bottom of your bag. Just like we did with our pencil pouch, okay, we're gonna do the exact same thing with our tote bag. Okay, so I always say you open it like a bag of chips. So I like to put my 2 fingers here, right at that corner, and then I pinch it, okay? From here, you don't really see much of anything, but I like to pull, like you're pulling open a bag of chips. And if you cut it correctly, it should match up pretty well. If it's a little uneven, that's okay. And we're gonna go ahead and pull it so it's nice and flat. I like to open up my seam allowances. So making sure my seam allowances are in the same spot. Kind of have to adjust it as needed, and we're gonna go ahead and pin. So I need to grab my pins. I might need both hands to open them. And I like to start at my seam allowance. I don't care which side you start on, but right, and then left. And then since this is much larger than our zipper pouch, I'm gonna put at least 1 or 2 here on the left side and 1 or 2 on the right side. It doesn't hurt to have more than what you need. Just gives you extra reinforcements. And once again, this is what's gonna give you the flat bottom to your bag, just like our zipper pouch, okay? So when we begin sewing, you can see we only want to sew through these 2 layers of fabric. A lot of my times my students will try and fold it and sew through multiple layers. What I'll do sometimes is I'll kind of open up my bag and press everything away, so that way you're only sewing through those 2 layers. So I'm gonna pull my machine back closer. We're gonna sew at 5/8 of an inch, back stitching at the beginning and the end. It looks like my needle came out of my thread came out of my needle, so I'm gonna rethread that really fast. It's kind of frayed, so let's trim that off. And then, like I said, we will sew. It is important that you backstitch all the way to the very edge. We do not want any holes in our bag. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and place this underneath my machine. Once again, 5/8 of an inch. I'm gonna go ahead and lower my presser foot, put my needle down in my fabric, take my pin out, and I'm ready to begin. Back stitching all the way to the edge and then going forward. Back stitching at the very edge. and running off the edge. Lifting my presser foot, turning my hand wheel till my take-up lever goes up. I'm gonna go ahead and trim my threads off here. Trim my threads from the beginning. You can see I have a nice sewn edge. We've gone all the way fold to fold at 5/8 of an inch. And then we are just going to repeat the process again with our other side. I'm not gonna show that video just for time. And then we're gonna repeat the steps with our lining as well. So go ahead and do that before you can move on to your next step.